I'm Anna,
I'm Jessica.
and this is the Paranoia Pair. Have you watched Love After Lockup?
No,
I haven't either, but I hear people talk about it and it sounds real good.
there's this girl I see on Instagram sometimes, and she married a man in prison, and she was apparently on it. I didn't follow her, but whenever her things came up, I'd go creep her whole profile because I found it interesting, but not interesting enough to actually follow her and get like current updates.
Mhm.
And they were on Love After Lockup. And then there's this other one who I don't know if she's on Love After Lockup, but she just got pregnant by her prison husband. And then like once a week she posts another prisoner to like help get him hooked up with someone. And I'm like, you know what? Cool, I guess. At least you know what he's doing. He can only sneak around so much in prison.
Speaking of, did you hear about those prisoners who escaped?
Is this recent?
Yeah, one of the guards went to go get like food or something from like I'm assuming the lunchroom. I'm hoping it was the lunchroom and he wasn't just like, I'm out of here. I'm going to McDonald's. Um But he left, and so they pulled one of the doors off the track, and then, I guess they had inside help because there was, like, rebar and, like, plumbing and stuff and, like, wires that had been cut, like, cleanly. So someone went in and, like, cut it all. All they had to do was, like, move something, like, out of the way, and there was a giant hole, and they escaped. They didn't find out they escaped until 7 hours later.
Sounds a whole lot like Prison Break.
Yeah.
Michael Schofield was involved.
But apparently they've recaptured at least 5.
Were any of them like serious offenders?
They were considered to be armed and dangerous. I didn't get, like, the whole lowdown on, like, what their charges were and stuff.
Well, that's crazy. So ironically, not so ironically, obviously, since we've been talking about it and you know what it's
Mhm.
about.
I don't actually know, like, anything about it. I just know it's called the Stanford Prison Experiment.
Well, you're halfway there. That's like all there is to know. This was requested by my husband. Well, he gave me the idea anyways. Takes place at Stanford University
Where's that?
in California. And I think it's one of those like prestigious schools, you know? Like
Yeah, it does. What's that one? Is it
like Yale and
Stanford
Harvard.
University making it something something?
Never heard of it.
Maybe it's not Stanford.
Is that a jingle?
Yeah. Remember that Education Connection one? Get
That's what I was
connected
trying to
for
think in my
free with
Education
Education
Connection.
Stanford University jingle. What university is it?
I feel like it's not Stanford.
Actually, it's not Stanford at all. It's Franklin University, and I will be inserting the jingle. You're welcome.
Franklin University makes it possible.
Well, Stanford is a well-known prestigious university, something we could never go to. It's a private research school that was founded in 1885, and it's known for its studies in law, engineering, business, and medicine. A quick Google search will tell you that they have an acceptance rate of about 3.7%. I think they're close to Harvard, but like I think like aren't the main ones like Harvard, Yale, and
Princeton.
yeah. Well, we're lucky if we get into community college. So these aren't colleges we'll ever see. And you can also expect to pay a tuition of about $87,000. So
A semester or
I
year?
don't know, but that's more than we paid for our house. So in the 70s, the US Navy and the Marines were interested in learning about the hierarchy, power in military prisons. So in August, the US Office of Naval Research funded the Stanford Prison Experiment. The experiment was led by American psychologist Dr. Philip George Zimbardo. Dr. Zimbardo studied at Brooklyn College and Yale University. He grew up in the Bronx, I think. And he has like Sicilian heritage. Not that I really think that's important to add, but it's interesting to me. After his studies, he taught at Yale, New York University, Columbia University, and at Stanford University, which is where I believe he taught until he passed away. He was a respected psychologist who made many major contributions to the field of psychology. So some of his major contributions were that he led the study that we're going to talk to you about today, the Stanford Prison Experiment, which I think was probably his most like famous contribution. He did a lot of time researching into the evil and moral disengagement, how social and institutional forces can lead good people to do evil things. And he has a book on this phenomenon called The Lucifer Effect. He researched the time perspective theory and how people perceive time and the ways they compartmentalize experiences into past, present, and future. And he founded the Shyness Clinic to investigate the psychological foundation of shyness and to develop interventions, which would have been real nice for us.
Yeah.
Instead, we were just told we were awkward lesbians. And he also founded the Heroic Imagination Project, a nonprofit organization to promote everyday heroism through research and education. I don't really understand how that's going to do anything, but, you know. The purpose of this experiment was to study the psychological effects of perceived power and the interaction between prison guards and prisoners. And they wanted to see if the relationship between the two were shaped more by the prison environment or the personalities of the prison guards. So an advertisement was placed in the classifieds that said, male college students needed for psychological study of prison life, $15 per day for 1 to 2 weeks beginning August 14th. For further information and applications, come to room 248, Jordan Hall, Stanford University. Things were
$15 a day.
This was in the 70s, though.
Oh.
And like the 70s were crazy. Like people were getting murdered left and right. How many serial killers were there? And they like see this advertisement to go
Yeah.
like in this random room. Like $15, I guess I'll go. People were getting murdered.
That's got to be at least $50 today.
So more than 70 men responded to the ad. And out of this, I think it was 74 men in total. Only 24 of them were picked. All the possible candidates had to go through a series of testing to ensure they were both physically and mentally healthy, had no drug dependencies, and no criminal record. And all 24 participants were undergrad students of Stanford. The 24 students were divided in half. Their roles were decided by the fate of a coin toss. So, like, that way it was just completely
like at random.
Yeah. Out of the 2 groups of 12, there would be 9 active participants and 3 that were alternatives. And then Zimbardo served as the superintendent, the prison superintendent. And one of the researchers, David Haffe, played the role of the warden. Zimbardo and Haffe were responsible for instructing the guards as to what the scope of their duties were. And the main duty they had was to maintain order, and the guards were allowed to use any means necessary aside from physical violence. Those who designed the mock prison consulted with prison officials and ex-cons. The prison was set up in a basement in one of the buildings at the university. Each cell was set up in old laboratories and had enough room for 3 prisoners. I also read that they didn't have windows in any of the cells, and like there was like no natural light. Obviously, because it's a basement. There was only one bathroom that the prisoners would have to be blindfolded and then escorted to. And then there was a solitary cell that was made out of a closet. On August 17th, it began. The 9 prisoners were arrested by actual police officers from the Palo Alto Police Department on like fake charges of like burglary and stuff, just to make it seem more real. I seen one picture and like this guy was literally getting arrested in the middle of the street and some guy was on his bicycle in the back just watching. And like, I think that's so funny because that's what we all do. But also I'd be so embarrassed getting arrested and like the people who were watching you not even knowing it was fake.
That guy from Toledo who like is going super viral on Facebook because he posts reels there, and he will go to where people are pulled over getting arrested and he'll just like take out his vacuum.
That's in
Or, like,
Toledo?
yeah, or like he'll be like dressed up as a giant traffic cone.
I don't know if it's the same one, but the guy literally, I don't know how, I'm assuming he got it obviously approved by the police, but the police were like arresting someone and he was on top of their cop car vacuuming
Yeah,
the
I'm
top of
pretty
the
sure
cop
that's
car.
him.
That's awesome.
I think he knows some of the officers because like he'll joke around with them sometimes.
I didn't know that was in Toledo. That's amazing. I love his videos. So the 9 prisoners were then taken into custody. They had their mugshots taken, they were fingerprinted, and they were moved into a holding cell. Finally, their faces were covered and they were moved to the mock prison. Dr. Zimbardo wanted to quickly facilitate the feeling of oppression in the prisoners. And since obviously they weren't going to be there for years, they like kind of ramped things up a little bit. So once in the mock prison, the prisoners were stripped naked, deloused, and given a short smock as a uniform, so like a dress.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't get underwear. They had to free ball the entire time just to make them like feel shameful and,
Like vulnerable.
yeah. The prisoners were giving nylon stocking caps to act as a shaved head because in prison, like they shave your head apparently. Maybe they did in the 70s. And then each prisoner also had a chain padlocked around one of their ankles. And they were each given a number that they were only referred to as, and they had to refer to each other by also.
Oh, that's kind of.
Yeah. The guards, they got actual guard uniforms.
Mhm.
They had whistles. They had those batons, which I don't know why they needed those since no physical violence.
Yeah.
And they had to wear mirrored sunglasses because they didn't want the prisoners to be able to make eye contact with them to like really make them, feel lonely or whatever. So night one, at around 2:30 a.m., the guards decided to do a head count and woke all the prisoners up, just blowing their whistles. Some of the prisoners didn't take the head count seriously, and the guards forced them to do push-ups, which would be torture. Actually, what would be torture is having to do a plank.
I can do planks, no problem, but push-ups and pull-ups are a no-go.
Oh, it's not
For
happening
me.
for me either way.
I'm gonna get 2 if I'm lucky.
So, just like I would do if I was forced to do push-ups, the next morning the prisoners decided to rebel.
Valid.
It's so valid. In the morning, when the next shift of guards came in, they were stunned to find the prisoners yelling profanities at them. The prisoners had taken off their numbers, removed their nylon stocking caps, and used their beds to barricade their cell doors.
Oh my god, wait, so they're being kept there?
Yeah.
I thought this was like you check in and then you go home and then you come back.
No, they're there. The
Oh
prisoners
my
are there
god.
24/7. The guards get to leave. They work in shifts of 8 hours. So like since there's 9 guards, 3, 3, and 3. So the guards get to leave, but they're supposed to stay on call when they leave, just in case, I guess a riot happens. So in the morning when when the first shift of guards came in, they were stunned to find the prisoners yelling at them. And so the night shift guards volunteered to stay over to help the morning shift guards deal with the rebel, which they should have because it was basically their fault. Because like, why are you doing head count at 2:30 in the morning? Where are they going? You have 9 of them. And they also called in the off-duty guards. The guards ended up using fire extinguishers. Like they were spraying them with fire extinguishers to get them away from their doors. Once they could, the guards rushed in, stripped the prisoners naked, and moved them into solitary. Mind you, these are college students. Like they took on their roles a little too well.
Oh my god.
The guards worked up a plan to keep the prisoners from rebelling again. They decided to remove all the beds so the prisoners had to sleep on the floor. And they made one of the cells the privileged cell where there would be beds. They would get their clothes back and they'd get special meals. The guards would also move the prisoners around every few hours to keep them confused.
Because nothing says I'm gonna behave like getting your bed taken away.
And no clothes.
And
They're
clothes.
butt naked for this.
And they're in a basement, so it's gotta be so cold.
In an old lab, so they have tile floors. The guards started dehumanizing the prisoners, making them call out their numbers. They wouldn't let them use the bathroom at night and only gave them a bucket, which they stopped emptying because the bad smell was another punishment for them misbehaving.
Oh, they are so lucky that didn't get thrown on them.
Oh my God, that would have been such a good idea. And they also took away food rations. They started starving the prisoners.
That's not allowed in real jail, I don't think.
I mean, I feel like a lot of stuff's not allowed in real jail, but it happens anyways.
Yeah, true.
After only 36 hours, the first participant was released from the study. Doug Corpy, one of the prisoners, had begun showing signs of distress. He began suffering from acute emotional disturbance, disorganized thinking, and uncontrollable crying and rage. And like while he's having this like episode, the prison guards like pulled him aside and were trying to get him to snitch on the other prisoners. And like when they realized he was like really in distress, then they like ended up, I'm assuming, calling in Zimbardo and like they were like, hey, let's get this guy out of here. So after 36 hours, the first participant was gone. And then at another point, Zimbardo had a priest come in to talk to the prisoners. While one of the prisoners, prisoner 819, was talking to the priest, he broke down and was later taken to the hospital. When he returned, the researchers offered to send him home, and he initially refused, saying he couldn't leave because the other prisoners had labeled him a bad prisoner. Zimbardo took him aside and reminded him he's not actually a prisoner, he didn't actually commit any crimes, and he's not in a real prison. After this discussion, Zimbardo said he came back to his senses and agreed to leave. So, like, they're really locked in at this point. On day 6, Zimbardo convened a mock parole board hearing where inmates who thought they deserved to be released could present their cases to the board. This is where Zimbardo realized the participants had actually began seeing themselves as prisoners and actually thought they had committed the crimes they were quote unquote charged with. One of the things Zimbardo recognized out of the 9 guards is that they could be sorted into 3 categories: tough but fair. These guards followed the prison rules and did nothing excessive. They didn't enjoy, hurting the prisoners or tormenting them. But they also wanted the rules followed. And then there was the good guys. They would help do little favors and obviously did not enjoy being mean. And then number 3 is the guards who just thoroughly enjoyed the power they wielded. Zimbardo kind of lost his head, which you would wonder, because you would think Zimbardo's in on it every day, looking at things and
Mhm.
seeing an actual poop bucket not being emptied or finding out that they're keeping rations. You'd think you'd close that down real quick or, just stop them from
Yeah,
doing that.
hey, you guys still have to be humane.
Yeah. These are your classmates. That's what's crazy is they all went to the same college.
They're classmates? I thought these were just, random people.
No, they're all undergrad students of Stanford. So you have to assume they're all in the same university. Class is going to be really awkward.
Oh my god.
Like, imagine seeing the guy who made you shit in a bucket for 3 days
Oh, I'd be pissed.
and keeping your food from you. There was one they had an interview with, and he was one of the ones that fell, I think, closer into the 3rd category of enjoying the power. And he claimed that they kind of just pushed him to be like that. So I don't know. I've met some people I just know would enjoy being a prison guard. Me, I don't like conflict, and the prisoners would tell me what to do. So Zimbardo had kind of lost his head, which I feel like was pretty obvious,
Mhm.
and really fell into his role as the prison superintendent rather than his place of being a psychologist. He said he really began to internalize his role as superintendent.
That's kinda scary.
Yeah. He was 40 years old, so he's a grown man.
He's doing the study. He's in charge of the
Yes.
study.
The researchers were just like, "Are we gonna stop this?"
Things are getting kinda weird.
So on the 6th day, a recent PhD recipient, Christina Maslach, was brought in to interview the prisoners and was horrified by what she saw. Maslach confronted Zimbardo, and he said that in that moment he realized that she was right and decided to cut the experiment short. So the experiment was supposed to last 2 weeks and got cut after 6 days.
This has only been 6 days? Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Day 2, they took away bathroom privileges and started starving prisoners
That's insane.
and took their clothes.
In 2 days.
Mhm.
What?
It's a little excessive. Some of the participants that were later interviewed claimed that they were told to act a certain way to help yield the results
Mhm.
that the researchers wanted. And then there was one interview I was kind of watching. I thought about putting it in, but this journalist actually, his cousin, he was 19 years old and he was in the military, and his sergeant had him and a few others rob a bank with him. And he claimed he thought that it was a part of an exercise. And Zimbardo actually came to trial and testified in this 19-year-old's defense that he thought that they were in an experiment, and then he thought that it was just a routine, and that with the power hierarchy that sometimes they just do whatever they're told because he thought that's what he was supposed to do. And the 19-year-old actually only got, I think it was 16 months in jail or probation. So he got a really reduced sentence. And it was thanks to Zimbardo testifying and with what he learned from this and his studies of the good and evil and stuff and the
Mhm.
power of the hierarchy of power. So he got this kid a reduced sentence, and years later he admitted to his cousin, the journalist, that he knew it wasn't actually a fake mission. He kind of knew what he was doing at the end of it. He knew it was an actual bank robbery. There was kind of some discrepancies, and a lot of people don't really believe that this experiment led to learning anything.
Mhm.
It's taught in a lot of psychology classes, and you can find it in most psychology books. I was in a psychology class in college. I didn't hear about it, but maybe I wasn't paying attention. And then there's a lot of people who believe that this experiment isn't the most reliable narrative. And there has been some people who have tried to like recreate it and didn't get results anywhere near the same. They were all white males that were students, undergrad
Mhm.
students of Stanford. And so I can just assume, but I feel like normal people might not get that bad. I don't know.
Are we normal?
No, no. We'd get bullied by the prisoners and become the new prisoners. Like,
Yeah.
if we were the guards, the prisoners would take over.
Honestly, I feel like I'd probably help someone escape. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, I'd fall for so many sob stories. So whatever the case, I think class would be really awkward on Monday. And there's a lot they had all the cells, they had audio recording so they could hear everything the prisoners were talking about.
Mhm.
There were video cameras. They had like news, I think it was news outlets videotaping or like recording when each of the prisoners were arrested. So like you can see all the footage and like you can hear the audios of the prisoners losing it and everything. And there's a movie that came out in 2015 about it. I did not watch it because I don't think it was on Prime. And I didn't go too far into looking because I knew I have a 10-month-old. Okay, I can't sit down and watch movies anymore. I'm fighting keeping her from eating my toes on most days. But that was the Stanford Prison Experiment. Not what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be more like the Russian sleep experiment, which apparently,
I thought that's what it's gonna be like too.
yeah. Because I asked my husband what I should do it on, and he told me this. So like I didn't like I kind of had an idea of what it was. Um, Obviously, if I was in the situation, I would have lost my like I would have fucking lost it if I was a prisoner. But like it given some of the other things we've talked about on this podcast, it was not nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Mhm.
Like it's probably one of the more toned down things, but it's still pretty interesting how like it only took like
2 days.
like really though the very first night the guards started antagonizing the prisoners.
Yeah.
So like it barely took a day before the power started going to their heads.
And it had to be shut down, like, within a week.
6 days.
Yeah.
Anyways, that was the Stanford Prison Experiment. You should have seen my notes. They're a mess. I started listening to a podcast on it. I listened to some of the audiobook because there's an audiobook. Well, there's
Mhm.
a book, but like on Spotify, they had like the audiobook version about the Stanford Prison Experiment. And then I like to also watch videos because I'm a visual learner. So like I have to be able to see. Sometimes like I don't like when I just read, I don't really like grasp it as much. So then I watched like 2 videos and then I was also reading. So I like to hear all of the exact same things because that's the only way I'm going to like retain information is if I hear the same thing from multiple sources. But then I go to write it and it's like I never heard about it a day in my life.
I'm so glad. I don't think I'm ever gonna go to college or anything. Like, I don't even know what I would do. Like,
I was going for the biology major
mhm.
and then I was just like excited because like I got to tell people I was going for a biology major. And then I got to calculus and I was like, fuck this. I'm going to change my major to like writing or something. Thanks for listening.
If you enjoyed this episode, you can find us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook at Paranoia Pair Pod. And we will see you next Friday.
Stay spooky.